You know, there's a reason I continue to play Fire Emblem Heroes even after 6 years from its release. That's because this franchise has so many characters I've grown very attached to, so every time said characters get added to the game, or get a new version of themselves in the game, that's enough reason for me to get very hyped.
But sometimes, Destiny can be very cruel, and some of these characters, while at least they got into the game, were treated with such disrespect that it's so baffling. I wanna make something clear though. Almost all characters in Fire Emblem Heroes can become competent with enough investment. But some of the characters that are on this list were treated so poorly in different ways, either through art, stats, or a lack of niche, which only gets worse when you compare them to their original game.
Is that clear enough? Then good! This is the Fire Emblem characters who were done dirty by Heroes.
Matilda is an excellent unit in Shadows of Valentia. If Zeke didn't exist, she would arguably be the best paladin in the game. Even then, since Zeke joined so late in the game, Matilda gets a lot of utility earlier on, and completely eclipses Clive on everything. On top of that, God, this design! Like, yeah, I know all the Valentian characters got some insane glow-ups, but Matilda got easily one of the best. So, what did Heroes do to her? If we go to her art, I really don't like it at all. I don't mean to throw shit at the artist or Kaya. I think they are good, but Matilda is easily their worst work. It feels so weak, boring, and lifeless. As a unit, all Matilda had to offer was her resistance. But that's it! The rest of her stats were so pitiful to look at, even for early hero standards. She didn't even have an offensive presence, and even though she had great resistance, it still didn't matter much because her HP was still on the low side, and that's not even mentioning how awful her defense was. She eventually got a refined weapon, giving her some sort of niche, but even then, male coring with the Jato was still a better option. All in all, even though Matilda is one of Shadows of Valentia's most useful units, Heroes simply did not do her any favors at all. And she has fallen into obscurity simply because after all these years, she still doesn't have an ult. Even so, the next character probably had it worse than Matilda. Mei is one of the coolest Valentian characters. I honestly don't know a single person who dislikes her, from her design, her personality, and her performance as a unit. She's just so good! She's kind of a glass cannon, but she does her job nonetheless, and with enough work, she can easily be one of the strongest units in Celica's party. Well, Heroes completely strip Mei of what makes her so likable. First, there's her art. I already criticized it, but I'll do it again. This is for me one of the most horrendous arts in all of Heroes. It's so bad on an entirely different level. It's horrible, generic, and it is devoid of any personality. Like, I know it's a next to impossible task to surpass Hidari's art, but Mei's official art in Shadows of Valentia tells you all you need to know about her just by looking at it. While in Heroes, you just get soulless moe face, I guess. Admittedly, Mei wasn't so bad when the game first released. She had some well-distributed stats that reflected her performance in Shadows of Valentia. Also, there wasn't much competition back then. But eventually, power creep started to hit and Mei just simply couldn't do anything. Just like Matilda, she also got a refine, but even then, it barely did much to help her, so it wasn't too long before she was forgotten once again. As you could expect, since then Mei has gotten absolutely nothing. No resplendent, not even an alternate costume. Literally nothing. And yeah, I know other Valentian characters have suffered from that too, but Mei baffles me so much given how beloved she is by Valentian fans. Locus. For the few of you who have actually played Genealogy, please tell me, what's the thing that defines Locus? The Master Knight class, right? For those who don't know, in Genealogy, both Locus and Leaf start out as weak units who are difficult to train. But if you put the time and effort to promote them, you'll be greeted with one of the most insane classes in Fire Emblem history, the Master Knight. A class that has very high stat caps, whose main selling point is that it lets its user wield a grand total of 9 different weapons: swords, lances, axes, bows, magic, and staves. It is a ridiculously flexible, fun, and useful class. So, how did they reflect that in Heroes? They didn't! Locus is a generic infantry staff user without a single interesting thing about her. And I think I mentioned this before, but I also hate her art, I don't like looking at it. Eventually she got a resplendent unit and well, she's slightly better, I guess? Ah, who am I kidding? She's just as bad. And I don't think the new art improved much, if I am honest. At the bare minimum, she got an alternate costume with much better art, as well as a niche and dance support. That is always appreciated. But overall, Locus is not even a shadow of how amazing she can be in genealogy. She was done so dirty. Especially when you compare her to Leaf, who at least got some super cool and useful legendary and seasonal alts. Now, I summon all the Fire Emblem Theracia 776 fans to this video. I was considering putting Abel on this list, given how she barely had anything when she was added to the game. But because she's out of commission for most of Theracia, and because she also has a pirate Bridget alt since, you know, this is the same person, I decided to switch focus to another character. Galzus. If you know nothing about him, let me explain. Gansus is a character that shows up early in Theracia as an enemy, who can obliterate your entire army without effort, so there is only one thing you can do. Run. Run as fast as you can. There is absolutely nothing you can do against him, and that makes his chapter genuinely tense and even scary to some degree. But if you manage to recruit him near the end of the game, you'll get yourself one of the strongest characters in Fire Emblem history. Galzus has cap strength, skill, speed, a respectable bulk, as well as high weapon ranks. He has 8 movement, a hidden stat that increases his critical hit rate, comes with a base kit that adapts to any situation, and has a strong support with Matilda, who is already fantastic. He is undisputably the best combat unit in Theracia right next to Seth, whose only issue is his poor availability. So how did they represent that in Heroes? They didn't. Galzus was added into Heroes with a generic kit and no unique weapons. In all fairness, he's not terrible, his stats are honestly very solid, and I think his art is very cool, but given how much of a monster he is in Theracia, he left so much to be desired. They could have easily given him a unique quadruple hit niche or maybe a flame sword for distant counters. But no, let's give all the attention to Marita's if she already didn't have it good enough. In Binding Blade, if you ask any player who is the worst unit in the game, they Sophia. But if you ask them about the absolute best Binding Blade units, the answers will always be the same. Percival and Melody. Maybe Shanna too, but let's ignore her for now. Both Percival and Melody excel in power, durability, and utility, with weaknesses that are very easy to patch. In Heroes, Percival didn't have it so bad. He wasn't the oppressive force he was in Binding Blade, but at least he got a unique weapon that at the time was very useful. Too bad about his art. I've already talked about how much I hate Yura's art style, but still. At least Percival got something, because Melody... I mean, her art is pretty sure, but that's about it. The thing with Melody is that, in a sea full of flying lances, she has nothing to set herself apart. The lack of a unique weapon or skill really hurt her a lot. They tried to bring something new with the Wyvern Flight skill, but I'll be honest, I've never seen a single player use this skill at all. So in the end, Melody ended up disappointing any Binding Blade fan who expected her to be the titan she was in the game. Jafar is a character who constantly shocks players. He's the one who killed Layla. He fatally wounds Seligut's father. His title is the Angel of Death, and during one of the most infamous chapters in the series, Battle Before Dawn, he shows that title is no joke, as he can easily murder any enemy he comes across, and it's easy to see why. His base stats are among some of the highest in the game. He has amazing strength, great sword rank, can double most enemies, and his skill lets him crit with ease. And if that wasn't enough, he still has the silencer skill that instantly kills almost any opponent when triggered. You have almost no reason to not use Jafar. That is, if we are talking about Blazing Blade, cause in Heroes... Sheesh... I'm sorry, but Jafar is a total joke in this game. He lacks in the offense and defense department, and for an assassin, his speed was so mediocre, only getting worse as power creep continued throughout the years. He does have a niche of being able to debuff and chip away the health of multiple enemies at once, but even then, healers with Pain Plus and Savage Blows used to be super common back in the day, and some of them were a cheaper investment than Jafar while still offering other types of support. I know I said no unit in Heroes is bad, but Jafar is one of those exceptions that feels next to unsalvageable. So in the end, the best thing Jafar got was a Christmas salt. Well, at least that version of him is miles more useful, and he doesn't look so miserable there. That's something. Speaking of the Black Fang, you know who also had it as bad? Loit. That art. That art is just so atrocious. Like, you can make the excuse that this is Morph Loit from the end of the game, but Linus got decent art upon his release and then received an alt based on his Morph form. So yeah, it's hard to know why Loit was done this dirty. You know, if I ever make a list on my top 10 favorite Fire Emblem characters of all time, minus the protagonist, Har will easily score high on that list. Long story short, I love this character. I adore his design, he's a Wyvern Rider, one of my favorite classes in the entire series, and he is basically the Melody of Radiant Dawn, but way better! He's easily one of the strongest and best characters in that game, only being rivaled by maybe Ike himself. That's a huge achievement. Har has it all. Strong damage output, durability, flare utility, hit rate, availability, fantastic stats, and his main weakness, Thunder Magic, isn't even that common. So in Heroes... Okay, he's probably the one character from this video who suffered the least, to be honest. But his first inclusion disappointed me so hard. Except for the art, because oh my god, it's so immaculate. It is almost the same case as Melody. When Har was added, he was a free unit who came in with literally nothing. He had great HP, attack, and defense. But that's about it. There was no real gimmick nor niche he could run properly. If I made him plus 10, it's simply because I love this character that much, nothing else. But at least Har got it better down the line. He got a pretty cool refine that blessed him with a bunch of useful effects, and even paid respects to his Thunder Magic weakness. And sometime later he got a Ninja alt. That unit wasn't also that special in terms of being unique, but hey, at least he got extra love, which I'm 100% down for. Har is still miles away from being the perfect unit he is in Radiant Dawn, but slowly but surely, we're making progress. For Awakening, there's two characters I want to talk about. They were done dirty, but not in the way you could expect. First, we have Henry. Oh, I always loved this guy. He was so twisted in a hilarious way, and every time he said something I would laugh. So, how did they murder him? It's his voice. God damn! I know it's the same voice actor, Bryce Papenbrook, but the new direction he went with in Heroes is so terrible! In Awakening, his performance was great. He really nailed that sarcastic, cheerful, yet fucked up demeanor of Henry.
Have some death! I'm gonna kill you! Special delivery!
But in Heroes, Henry just sounds like this irritating, unlikable child that is trying way too hard to sound edgy.
Here, have some death! Ooh, this'll hurt! Special delivery!
And I don't know why this happened, because again, Henry sounded perfect in Awakening and it's the same voice actor. There was no need to change his voice at all. Something similar happened to Petty, in which she got a more obnoxious voice in Heroes. But the difference is, I actually love Henry in Awakening, and Petty can fall off a cliff and die. I hate her. So this is the main reason as to why I think Henry was done so dirty in Heroes. Tiki. You guys might say, but Luis the Game Shelf, what are you talking about? Have you seen the amount of Tikis in this game? Are you crazy?
To answer the latter, yes.
But also, I have to clarify, I'm talking about adult Tiki, and she is also a very special case because she has 4 alts and at least 3 of them are or were very useful at some point. But the reason as to why she's always done so dirty is because Intelligent Systems keeps constantly putting her in the shadow of young Tiki, and that is so frustrating! Let's put this into perspective. Game releases and we get both young and adult Tiki. Okay, awesome! Then time passes and we get a summer adult Tiki, which... A year later, young Tiki also gets a summer alt. Awesome, now we're even! Then time continues to pass. Weeks, months, and literal years. And young Tiki continues to get a lot of love. A fallen unit, a legendary version, a duo with Ninian, and even an ugly as fuck Resplendent. So what did adult Tiki get in that time? Absolutely nothing. Fans were getting tired of this bullshit and they just said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. So in Choose Your Legion 6, we all voted for adult Tiki just so she could finally get an alt, and she won 2nd place. We were all ecstatic until her art was revealed. And it had to be adult Tiki wearing the same clothes from young Tiki. And okay, I love this art and I love the unit, but we voted for adult Tiki just so we wouldn't get young Tiki, and they just had to show her in there somehow. Like, why didn't they just give her a Naga outfit or something different? And it seems that in an attempt to rub salt in the wound, Intelligent Systems later released Ascended Tiki that works similarly to Brave Tiki. Hell, I even saw some people argue that Ascended Tiki power creep Brave Tiki, and it's like, come on! And if that wasn't already frustrating enough, finally, after so many years, adult Tiki got an alt of her own, sporting a bridal dress, looking so beautiful, so gorgeous, so... Oh hi, young Tiki!
I had enough.
It seems that no matter how hard we try, Intelligent Systems will never allow adult Tiki to shine on her own without involving young Tiki somehow. And that is pretty fucked up. Now, let's move to Fates. So in this game and Heroes, it is blatantly obvious that if you're a royal, you're bound to get the absolute best, right? Well, yeah! That is, unless you're Leo. He had it so bad for many years. When he released, he had the benefit of being the only Red Tome Cavalry unit. But even then, his unique effect of Brine Heal wasn't even that good, and his stat line was atrocious. His fate was sealed when Mage Erika showed up and completely outclassed Leo in every single aspect, taking away the only thing he had going on for him, being a Red Mage Cavalier. Even after Brine Heal got a refine, it wasn't good enough cause Leo's stats were so pitiful he couldn't even take advantage of the new effects. He got some alts, sure, but they share the same problems by having similarly awful stat lines. They had it even worse actually because they didn't come with a unique weapon or skill. Leo had it so bad until 2023 when he finally got a light of hope with his Day of Devotion alt, where he finally has the stats, weapons and skills to make him a competent unit at base. But it is crazy to think how for a Fates Royal, he had absolutely nothing for so long. I don't think Fire Emblem Three Houses has any characters who were done dirty, but there is someone I really want to talk about. Cronia. You see, when Three Houses was close to release 4 years ago, damn, 4 years. We got both Violets and all the house leaders. As a bonus, we also got Cronia as a Grand Hero Battle, and surprisingly, she was amazing! She came in with an incredible and pretty horny art, a unique weapon, and a very interesting gimmick. She was so awesome, she became a common unit to see in either race. This led to many people, myself included, believe that Cronia was gonna be this relevant and important character in Three Houses. Then you play the game, she kills your dad, and then... And yeah, that's all she did. I know all of those who slither in the dark are awful antagonists, but Cronia is very special because it's like Heroes gaslighted us into thinking she was gonna be important in Three Houses. But no, she was done so dirty in that game. It's just so funny. Now we have reached the end of the line. If you have paid attention to this video, you might have noticed we've gone through order of games, but I purposely saved these two characters for last. I find it so curious how many similarities they share with one another. They were done so dirty on the same capacity. So without further ado, I introduce to you Seth and Titania. Tell me, what do these two share in common? Much more than you can imagine. These units are the Oifi archetype, a unit that starts strong early in the game, but like a Jagen, Oifis have the potential to remain competent and incredibly strong until the end of the game. But these two are something else, as they are often considered the best characters in their respective games. Seth is inarguably the strongest unit in Sacred Stones, being able to solo the entire game from beginning to end. Titania is also among the best Path of Radiance has to offer. Not just because of her solid base stats and growths, the horse classes are at their peak in Teleus, thanks to the combination of high movement, access to the two strongest weapon types and Canto. Titania is easily the best character during the first half of Path of Radiance, staying solid until the credits roll. Well, these Oifis were done so daring Heroes. Seth came in with balanced stats, making him a jack of all trades that excelled at nothing. Titania had a strong focus on speed and resistance, but none of that mattered because her attack stat was beyond pitiful even for Gear 1 standards. These two also came in with some of the worst weapons in the game, the Ruby Sword and the Emerald Axe respectively. When they got a refine, all they got were slightly better versions of these weapons, and even then, you were better off just giving them a slaying or a woe weapon because the refines were so not worth it. Also, funny enough, these characters got alts a few years later, which unfortunately ended up being the free ones. They had better stats, sure, but still, nothing that comes close to their insane power from their games. If I had a nickel for every time intelligent systems butchered their oifis in Heroes and later gave them equal and impressive alts, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. If I can rescue something from here, is that Titania's arts are beyond gorgeous, especially the Day of Devotion one. But that shouldn't come as a surprise, since Sachiko Wada drew her. Seth, well, you guys know I hate Fujiwara Ryo's art, so yeah, no good comments here. And I don't know why, I find his summer art so weird. It's not bad, but something about it feels off and I can't put my finger on what it is. Still, for all these reasons is why I consider Seth and Titania as some of the characters who were done the most dirty in all of Heroes.
So, what did you think? Did you agree with the list? Would you change anything? Which other characters would you say were also done very dirty by Heroes? Please, let me know in the comments, and would you do that? Thank you so much for your time, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and well, you know the drill. If you could support the channel, you know, by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, Patreon, or even checking my other content, that will mean so much to me. Have a wonderful day, and take care! I'll see you next time!